Today, we're going to be looking at the Snapmaker U1 and comparing it to a few of the Bambu Lab printers. So let's just get right into it. We'll be looking at the price comparison in AUD, print times, print quality, some of the waste that they create, and how easy they are to maintain and sort of deal with spare parts and things like that. So I've done 2 prints on them, one each, and I used the exact same model. I even used the exact same filament. Took the rolls out once finished with the Bambu print and put it straight to the U1. Same model size, and I even used the exact same slicing settings. All I did for slicing was literally just click enable support, and that was it. We'll first look into some of the costs of the U1, as there's a big question that a lot of you guys have, and this is all in AUD. So we bought a machine that cost us 1,200 roughly. We also bought it with a top cover for an extra 200, and delivery was 85. Now, from what I believe, you can only buy it direct from Snapmaker at the moment, and it took 8 days to arrive, which is pretty quick, but we're still waiting on the top cover. We'll let you know when that arrives. So a total of 1,500 for a tool changing printer, which is pretty awesome. Cost breakdown of the other printers, so just to compare to some of the Bambu options, this is not including delivery because they're all different sizes. Some you can pick up locally. So if you just compare the machine costs with AMS, the U1 is really competitively priced, even a bit cheaper than the X2D. The A1 combo still comes in at like half the price of the U1. So that's why I wanted to compare the A1 to the U1 in this webinar. So the test model I made with AI, I wanted it to have 4 colors and have a few features like multiple contours to test a bit of the retraction, separate first layers to give the printer a bit of a challenge, and obviously have some supports and overhangs in there and some small colored features like the eyes. So yeah, that was the model there. It was about 100 millimeters tall, and these are the results. So on the right here, straight from the H2C, and on the left is the Snapmaker. You can see straight away quite similar in their results. The main difference is the way that they're sliced, but comparing them up close, you wouldn't really know which one is which. It looks like Bambu goes for a bigger purge tower by default, whereas the Snapmaker was a bit smaller, but you can change that. So with the supports off, generated support on some regions that were quite challenging to remove on both models. I noticed a big difference on the prime towers. On the Snapmaker, it was really nice and clean, and you didn't notice any of these little artifacts as it did on the H2C. So the quality on both pretty good. So let's jump into the difference in print time. So the U1 was the quickest by far with 6 hours and 18 minutes with a total print cost of $2.70. That's assuming a roll is $25. The H2C was an extra 2 hours and the price was about the same. The time was a lot quicker on the U1, and that comes down mainly to the tool changing time. The Snapmaker was 16.5 seconds. It's crazy quick. You look away and it's already onto the next color. Whereas the H2C is still quite slow. It was over 45 seconds, but still not too bad. But when we look at some of the other printers, the X2D, 16 hours and about $6.40. Similar cost to the A1, but the A1 has that much longer time of nearly 24-hour print. So assuming you sold this model for $25 and you just printed these for 24 hours at a time, non-stop, and just selling them non-stop, how many prints and how long would it take you to buy back that printer? So on the Snapmaker, about 2 weeks of straight printing, 55 prints. H2C, obviously much more expensive, almost 3 times the price. And I guess that equates to about 3 times the amount of prints that you need to do. So this is when the A1 really starts to shine through, and you see that you can pay back your A1 really quickly and get a return on your investment quite quickly. Now, that's with the number of prints, but then when you consider the days, it does take longer to print them. So this is an interesting one to consider if you've got a specific product that you're selling that is multi-material or multicolor. I would really dive into this here. You just slice it on the different programs and you can start to calculate which one is actually worth getting. So this is Snapmaker Slicer, which is based off of Orca Slicer, and it looks pretty much like Bambu Slicer, which is nice. It feels familiar. And again, you can see the only setting I've put on is just to enable support. I did notice that when I hit print on the Snapmaker, it did take a while to get all the tool heads ready for printing. So that was something I noticed. Really, the Snapmaker overall was quite easy to use. The only issue that I ran into was loading the filament in. For some reason, slot 1 just didn't want to automatically load. So we had to manually load it, like manually set the temperature and then manually press extrude. And then once it sort of grabbed the filament, then it could automatically load. So not sure why ours was sort of a bit buggy with that, but apart from that, everything was really straightforward. I was quite busy while this was printing, so I was barely even keeping an eye on it, and it just went with no problems at all. It looks like on the standard mode, it's got first layer height is 0.25, which is something different. It looks like everything else is quite similar. There might be a few extra settings, especially with the tool heads. This looks different as well. Alternate, extra, all that, probably in Orca. But overall, a really nice familiar feeling. It felt really easy. I actually just dragged in my Bambu file into this and it worked pretty easily. It worked well. So if you've got a large product line with Bambu 3MFs, it should be pretty easy to transfer them over if you're looking to buy this printer. The only thing which required some setup was the filament settings. So I went for generic PLA just because I didn't want to risk using, like, for example, the filiform presets, we don't have them ready for Snapmaker yet. So these settings technically aren't optimized. And considering that they're not really optimized, that the print quality came out this good with generic PLA, that's a really, really positive sign for Snapmaker. There was a bit more, I don't know if you can see some of the stringing. On the H2C, there was like no stringing at all, but that is really minor, like that's tiny. I bet you with some calibration, that would be completely fine. I'm noticing now actually that the textured PEI plate is set to 65. On Bambu, is that the case? I feel like it's 60, but maybe I'm wrong. 55 for the H2C. Okay, but now over to Bambu. Something to keep in mind, especially with the X2D and the H2C, when I loaded in this model, I printed it first on the H2C and I just went for filament saving mode and I just clicked on that. And this automatic filament assignment is terrible, absolutely terrible. It just increased the print time like crazy. So with the H2C here, you'll see it's almost like an extra 4 hours or something like that. So it's already gone up from, I think it was 8 hours to 11, just because it's assigned the filament in a bit of a random way. I don't really understand what it's doing. So you want to assign the main color to the left. On this model here, it's mainly orange from start to finish. So that's why when you set it this way, it actually prints most efficiently. So something to keep in mind, have a play around with it if you're optimizing your prints for speed and efficiency, because this produces much faster. Even with the X2D, it's important to do that. That's the H2C there, 8 hours, 37 minutes. Snapmaker, 6 hours, 18. The A1 there, it's pretty much all waste that you're waiting for and paying for. And similar with the X2D. So overall, my conclusions on these two printers. Well, I've only done one print on each print and both were really easy to use. It felt really familiar coming from a Bambu and going to a Snapmaker. If you're printing a lot of multi-material, TPU and PETG, I believe that the Snapmaker has more flexibility there and more, because I'm not even too sure, to be honest, if the H2C can use TPU in the AMS. So that's a point there to consider. But overall, I would want a bit more anecdotal evidence from some people at the shop here before investing in the Snapmaker. But for the price, it just seems like it's almost too good to be true. My takeaway is that I would recommend it, and I would just really dive into the payback period and really think about what you're printing and what sort of materials as well. Test your models. You can download the Snapmaker slicer for free and play around with it and test it. But overall, I had a really fun time using it. And actually, if you've got any other things you want to test out, pass them my way and we can test it out.